What's the worst thing you've ever heard a teacher say at school? Used to have an alcoholic teacher who, when handing out textbooks, slammed one down in front of a larger boy in our class, pointed at him and said, "Don't eat it." Yeah, the kid cried. In 6th grade, there was an Indian girl in our class, and she was getting teased because of the way she smelled. She didn't smell bad. She just smelled like Indian food. And our teacher did this thing where she would pull a student into the hall and talk to them either about bullying or being bullied. Well, she took this girl into the hall and had one of her talks with her. The teacher then comes back into class and tells us all that she had a talk with the girl and explained to her that maybe her family could eat their more traditional foods on the weekends and more American foods during the week. I will never forget being 11-12 and thinking, is she crazy? I felt so bad for the girl. I told my mum about it when I got home that day. So my mum started packing me Syrian lunches. My mum was half Syrian and called the teacher and bitched her out for it. The teacher then apologized to the class and the little girl. My 8th grade science teacher would pick on this one girl in the front row. One time he was going to make a joke about her breath being so bad he could see it. Instead he said, "I can see your breasts," to a 14-year-old girl. Chemistry teacher that got annoyed easily with my class specifically. "All right, fuck this, you're all going to fail this exam." People in my class would never shut up. And it was the last week of school, so he was just done with us. TBH, I can understand the teacher. I was in pretty much the same situation. One year our class was so bad, the teacher left after that year to go to another school in another city. Had an AP Calc teacher that was thoroughly done with one class of Calculus BC since they were all chatting when he was teaching. Got fed up one day and gave the class a pop quiz. Legit the hardest quiz ever conceived. The TA. My brother couldn't even solve it and he breezed through BC like it was a joke. Every student shit the pants they had. At the end of it, he collected all the quizzes and threw them away. His final words that class were, "That's why you don't talk when I'm teaching." Fucking legend. 100 pass rating Calculus BC at my school. I have never feared nor respected a teacher so fully in my life. The moment he sighs is the moment people encounter Judgment Day. I was a metalhead with long hair. In the 9th grade, my algebra teacher who was working on his 3rd Dewey told me that I'd OD before I ever graduated. I sent him an invite to my graduation. I mentioned how I hadn't odd. He no-showed. But one of my other teachers came, told me what an asshole that guy was, and that he'd be sure to ask him why he couldn't make the graduation, just to rub it in a little. That was really cool of your other teacher. Age of 9. Lost my father in a horrific accident. I returned to school a few days later, and after attendance was taken, the teacher said to me in front of the class got together and sent flowers to your father's funeral. I paid your share, so make sure you bring in 2 tomorrow as I need to be paid back. She then went on with the lessons. As many have asked, what happened? I asked to see the school nurse and was sent home. Once home, I told my mother. Returning to school 2 days later, I never saw the teacher again. I don't know how my mother handled it. Same, this is just WTF. You don't make a kid pay for his own father's funeral flowers. This teacher is stupid. Also, 2, you can't spare $2 for a kid whose dad just died? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Who would do that? What did you do? What did your mum say? I asked to go see the nurse, she sent me home, and once home I told my mother. I don't know what happened, but I didn't take any money to school and the teacher wasn't there when I returned 2 days later. Your mum killed her with a flower and a $2 bill. Teacher, so will you miss the rest of this week, just like last week? Me, my dad was in hospice. Sorry it took him so long. Teacher, heart visibly sinks into stomach and face drops. At least he realized he was wrong. Ha, at least your teacher had the decency to be shamed. My school administration took me to truancy court. My elementary schooler niece is currently in trouble for truancy because she had the audacity to be hospitalized for her organ transplant rejection. In elementary school too? Sheesh. Yep, the doctor at the hospital provided a letter. The school said anyone can fake those. To be fair, her mother is generally awful, so the school is right to mistrust her at least a little, but not on this. They all know she had a transplant, and they all know she was severely ill right before the hospitalization. I missed a week of work at my part-time job, full-time job. Let me take my time because of my mum suddenly dying. I got a message saying, "When are you coming back?" The show must go on. That was pretty shitty to hear from a place I'd worked at for 6 years. I had a similar situation. Was told work is more important than family. My eyes keep on widening and widening to these fucking bullshit responses people have received about the death of their parents. This one English teacher at my school once told a black kid to read a passage in some slavery novel to read it blacker. It got on the news and she eventually just quit. She also moved into my apartment building and I occasionally run into her, which is pretty funny. In UK Year 11 age 1516. An English literature teacher once told my class, polar bears almost exclusively eat penguins. I was not good at literature, but I was good at science subjects. And I was not this teacher's favourite pupil. So when she said this, I quite quickly argued back, saying that she was wrong. She protested and I explained that polar bears live in that Arctic Ocean, and while there are various species of penguin, none of them live in the northern hemisphere. This was an open argument during class and she offered to Google the answer. So she did, and when I was proven correct by the internet, she sent me out the class. As a teacher, this crap infuriates me. If a kid proves me wrong, I openly admit it and give them kudos for doing it. Throwing a kid out because they stood up for what they know is right, because you're too insecure to let a teenager prove you wrong, is the kind of thing that makes kids hate school. I just wish I was fucking dead. Overheard by complete chance while wandering the corridors during a free period. Turned right back around and took the long route so I wouldn't have to walk past the classroom. It was a bit of a broken pedestal moment for me, but I never told anyone else about it. The teacher who said it was one of our most beloved history teachers, who, we later found out, had been stopped from committing suicide at least twice by one of the deputy heads who'd been friends with him since their university days in the past. Not stopped as in talked things out and convinced him it wasn't the best way to deal with his problems, but as in physically picked up and dragged away from the window. He, the deputy head, was quite intimidating as a teacher, but we gained a lot of respect for him after learning that. I hope that your teacher is okay now. I recently lost one of my favorite teachers in high school, coincidentally also a history teacher, to suicide. He was beloved by all of his students. He was the baseball coach too, and he was the only teacher I would get up early and got to practice for. I didn't know of his struggles, although I did know he always advocated for men's mental health. I miss him, and I tear up now when I find report cards and homework from his classes. I hope your teacher got the help he needed. Not really the worst, but once in high school, my teacher legitimately asked the blind girl in our class why she wasn't going up to check her grade on the grade sheet. I have a friend with bilateral cochlear implants. That is, he was born deaf and still has less than average hearing with the implants. Well, back in high school, he was in several of my classes. Stand-up guy, really nice, yada yada. Anyway, one day, one of our teachers asks him some banal question. Here's a transcript of the following interaction. Teacher, jokingly, what? Are you deaf or something? Teacher looks horrified. Entire class and friends start dying laughing. Teacher apologizes profusely. Luckily, she was actually a super nice lady and basically forgot my friend was, in fact, deaf without his implants. This is the thing that teacher's brain will randomly dig up at 2 a.m. for some sleepless self-cringing, forever. Sometimes I remember these types of moments while driving, and I have to let out a short R because, damn, shit like this is always a huge reminder that people are nowhere as unique as they'd like to think they are. I do the exact same thing, and I'm glad I'm not alone. Apparently, my brain also fancies bringing up mortifying memories when I am laying in bed trying to sleep for work in the morning. Hey, remember 18 years ago when you were around 7 and asked your mum what a blowjob was? I have to let out an audible shut the fuck up or give it a rest already, as if somehow it isn't my own dumbass that is thinking it. Joke's on you, the teacher had her grade written in Braille. Like they just printed out the dots in ink and not raised at all. Amazing how often this occurs apparently. Or it's done correctly, but someone puts it behind a protective barrier. Really? As a blind guy, I've never seen this happen. She probably didn't mean to be mean. I once had a blind man ask me if I could show him the door at the train station, and I pointed and said, of course, it's right over there, fully knowing he was blind. Sometimes your brain just fucks you over. When I was in high school, my teacher was trying to bring up a PowerPoint on the projection screen. She still needed to log into her account. We all watched as she forgot to hit tab to go to her password and type in "fuck this shit." That was the quietest I have ever heard a high school classroom. How dare you write that? You're practically emotionally handicapped. It's psychopathic. Said to me at 12, not even half a year after my mum died. She made us write an essay about our home life, which in retrospect was a fucked up excuse to snoop into my situation and didn't like how I used humor to cope. So she pulled me out of the class to yell at me for 5 minutes for not being sad enough. I don't even remember what I wrote besides cracking some jokes about my dad's outfits. My best friend lost her dad to cancer when she was 12 and her mum taught her to use humor to cope. She likes to tell people he died and then ask them if they want to see a picture of her and her dad. And then she shows them a picture of her smiling next to his tombstone. Her mum died in February. They cremated her, put her in a wine bottle, and threw her at the LAS Vegas sign. We make jokes about how nuts she was, LMAO. Probably the best way to cope with death is laugh at it. I hope someone throws a pickle jar of my ashes at the Seattle gum wall. Not all Mexicans are from Mexico. Some are from El Salvador. BCOM professor. My history teacher called himself Big Daddy. Edit, it is a little alarming to me how many people have had teachers call themselves the same thing. My history teacher called me the door bitch because I let students into the class. My homeroom teacher liked saying only loose women and whores hang out at doors. I gotta start hanging out by more doors. My HS Gov teacher told me I was faking an autoimmune illness and that I'd never make it anywhere with my laziness. She was trash. Edit, I was not faking it. I had medical documentation to back me up. I am now nearly finished with my BS in biology and headed to med school next year after surgery. Suck it, Mrs. Noise. Fuck her. My school nurse sophomore year of high school thought I was faking illness to get out of gym class. My favorite class. Turns out I had undiagnosed Crohn's that got worse and worse through the year until I could barely walk without exhaustion. I had a teacher stand me up in front of the class and have them say stupid in unison. That really did a lot for my 5th grade self-esteem, especially considering my dad was in rehab at the time, and the reason I was called stupid was I lost my homework at said rehab visiting him. Joke's on her though. I am an accomplished scientist today, despite that terrible chain of events. My science teacher in 7th grade called a Mexican kid in my class a fence hopper once during the middle of class. In the same vein, I had a high school teacher that nicknamed everyone. His name for my friend from Syria was Green Card. We had a huge influx of Hispanic kids in 5th grade. There was a lot of cultural tension from the adults, though as kids really didn't care all that much. Anyway, one of the teachers insisted on calling all the Hispanic kids anglicized versions of their names. Example, Juan would be John. There was one girl named Rosalinda, and she insisted we all just call her Linda because Rosa isn't an English name. Edit, anglicized, not Americanized. Got it. Woodshop teacher telling an Asian kid he doesn't really need to wear a face shield on the lathe. You know, because of the eyes. He meant it as a joke, but even at 15 we all kind of hushed and looked at each other like, dude, did he just fucking say that? When I was 12, my teacher said my knitting had too many errors in it, it had 4, and ripped it to shreds. I was supposed to start all over again, but excused myself and went to the bathroom, where I cried for the rest of the lesson. One time we were drawing this part of a photo we saw in art class with a pencil and paper, and my friend wasn't very good at drawing, so the art teacher took it from him and yelled something along the lines of it being a really bloody bad drawing, and Ripid crumpled it up in front of him and the whole class. This was in grade 5 or 6, and of course, my friend was bawling his eyes out. Edit, thanks everyone. It's bawling, not bawling, now I know. One time in art class, we were told to draw a photograph on our desks as we see it by the teacher. The original art teacher had gotten fired, so this was a substitute teacher. When the original teacher would want us to copy something, he would tell us to copy it, and tell us to draw it as we see it, if he wanted us to do something other than copy. So I drew this super cartoony horse in exactly the same pose. I had a ton of fun with it, and was excited that the sub wasn't making us do something boring. When he saw it, he blew up on me, told me straight up that it was bullshit, and that's not was. I saw. We all tried to explain why we confused. As I wasn't the only one that didn't just copy the photo, he ripped it up and told me I should just stop drawing. I would never be an artist. Fuck that guy. My brother abused me as a child. It started around 3rd or 4th grade, And when I was in 4th grade, he held a pocket knife my dad had given him up to my neck. I told my class about it because I was scared. My teacher took me to the hallway and told me, "Don't say those things or you'll be taken away from your family." I never mentioned the abuse to anyone again until 7th grade because of the warning this teacher gave me. It only got worse after the knife incident. Damn, that's messed up. It's good that you had the courage to say something though. You are incompetent, terrible. Boy who has no decency and will never amount to anything in your life. I'll be surprised if you're even capable of finishing this year, let alone school. Very damaging to 9-year-old me. My teacher said the same thing to me. I was around 11 years old and she told me that I'd never achieve anything in life and that I'd be a screw-up forever. This was because I did an assignment with a friend of mine instead of doing it alone. Fuck me for having a friend, right? In 1st grade, there was one boy in our class, Reggie, who lived in a van. Most of us kids knew about it because a counselor had come round to talk to the class after someone had teased him about not changing his clothes. The counselor did a great job explaining to us that now was the time he needed support and friendship. And so as kids we're all pretty nice to him after that. Then after winter break, we were all sitting around it sharing time talking about what we got for Christmas, and Reggie said he got a Super Nintendo. We knew this probably wasn't true, but we went along with it so he wouldn't feel bad. But the teacher totally called him out on it, saying, "You've got a Nintendo in your van? Nobody likes a liar, Reggie." The kid just wilted. It was awful, and just the pure lack of compassion she showed has stuck in my memory for 25 years. Just because I'm on a diet doesn't mean I can't look at the menu. Priest in a Catholic high school after he was caught looking down a girl's shirt. My brother had a friend whose mother had died the day before, but he still went to school for some reason. He walked into the class late or something, and the teacher asked jokingly, "Did your mum die?" He just said, "Yeah, she did," and left. When I was about 9, our teacher asked the class what we wanted to be when we grew up. One kid said he wanted to be a bin man, a garbage man for us readers. The teacher went into a rant, saying that jobs like these were for the lowest, most unintelligent people in society, and that he should aspire to be better than that. Finally, she asked why he wanted to be a bin man anyway. "Because my dad's one," said the kid, by now in tears. I'm late to the party, but by far the worst thing was what my grade 6 teacher screamed at us. We'd been doing something kids do, probably talking, and she went off at a class of 30 12-year-olds screaming, "I hope you all get your heads bashed in at high school." I had a tax teacher in college point out the kid who was bound to a wheelchair and had an aide who would take notes for him and say that he wouldn't get far in life because of his disability, and that was just the way his life would be. And the teacher knew this because his mother was also bound to a wheelchair as well. This made me so angry. Sure, he's going to have a tough time, but no teacher has the right to tell a student what they can and cannot accomplish in life. That teacher was a dick. I told our coordinator and wrote it on our end-of-year evaluations. I'm not sure if he returned, to be honest. A teacher told the story of when he was working at a girls' summer camp. The showers had broken down and he had to go fix it for the girls who were mid-shower. They had the girls put their faces to the walls for some reason. Naked bums all along the walls. He told it as if it was a funny anecdote. I was creeped the fuck out and can't imagine how the girls who were going to said camp felt about the story. The girls couldn't get out temporarily to be fixed. Like that was their better solution? When I was in high school, a gym teacher came up to me one day towards the end of class when everyone was just kind of freely shooting basketballs and hanging out on the bleachers. I was standing by myself and walked up and asked me something about the neighboring town. He said, "Did you know that in Olney, they used to hang niggers with velvet?" And then just walked away. It was the only time he ever talked to me. I'm white, and he was a black guy, maybe 6'8". I think he was in the NBA for one season or something. Everyone loved him, so I guess he was just messing with me. But he got me pretty good. Was this the same teacher who regularly said, "I didn't get off the slave ship yesterday"? Nah, it's the one who would say stuff like, "Oh, hey, tell your mama I said Saturday is fine. You're still going to a friend's this weekend, right?" Okay, I have one. When I was in elementary, I got confused at lunchtime and threw my food out early and wandered outside for recess. Alone, realizing my mistake and having no idea what to do. I went back inside and told a lunch lady and asked what I should do. She dragged me by the arm to the center of the lunchroom with a live mic and informed everyone of my mistake and how no one should do what I did because it was a bad thing. She told everyone I was going to get expelled. I was sobbing at that point. I kept asking her what expelled meant, but she didn't answer me. All I knew was that it was a bad thing. I never told my mum until years later. And no, I didn't get actually expelled. When I was a senior in high school, I had a teacher tell me that if I wanted to kill myself, I had to follow the highway, not cross it, while making cutting motions. My sixth form tutor told us the same thing. He used to work as a counselor for recovering drug addicts and had patients commit suicide. Now that I think about, I do hope he didn't give his patients this advice. Paraphrasing slightly, but there's no such thing as Asperger's syndrome. This is just attention-seeking behavior, said to me about me. Admittedly, this was over 20 years ago, when not everybody had heard of it, but still, it had 2 days of tests and brain scans resulting in a long-form diagnosis explanation which my parents had shared with my teachers. Every other teacher basically reacted with, "Oh, so that's why he's so weird. Okay, we can work with this, but not this guy. Fuck you, Mr. Milliliters." Unlike his cuntism, which is very real and difficult to cure. Mrs. Noodle, my 3rd grade math teacher, 1987. I missed 2 weeks of school due to a horrible case of chicken pox and fell behind with whatever it was that we were working on. A month after I came back to school, I was still struggling with math, but was too young and scared to ask for help. We had a test that I failed. So, Mrs. fucking Noodle brought my 3rd grade self up to the front of the classroom and shamed me. She told the entire classroom that Buffy will never succeed in math. I ended up crying and going to the nurse with a stomachache. I'll never forget how awful she was to me. And I struggled with math for the rest of the time that I was in school. That's terrible, and not at all what a teacher should do. I was taking lessons to be a teacher, and one of the first things we learn is if we find a student like this, then we should find a way to get them caught up, not to punish them. I have so many questions about her name. Is it pronounced Nudell or Nudell? Did the class call her Mrs. Noodle? Has she ever introduced herself by writing her name on the board, then some clown dusts off the last letter after class and be all, "Lol, Mrs. Nude?" For context, I was screaming, "I'm on fire. My hair is on fire. He lit me on fire." My freshman year in high school, there was a girl who got her hair set on fire by the kid behind her. Logically, she ran to the bathroom to put it out. Our school was really strict about not being out of class without a pass, and they suspended her. The kid that sat behind her got nothing. Sadly, there were a lot of similar cases. Fadge J must have been a legend. Please tell me his replacement was called Titsman. Assman fucking deserved it. My 4th grade music teacher told us to shut the fuck up. She got fired. I taught for a while, and there were times I was dangerously close to doing something similar. Male teacher was talking about the dress code to me and a friend of mine during lunch. He stated he doesn't like seeing a bunch of fatties in short shorts, but then gestured towards a thin girl in short shorts walking up the step and said, but that I don't mind. Had a girl at my school get in huge trouble for her dress one day. It didn't break the dress code on her. And another girl was wearing the exact same dress, and it did break it for her. The girl in trouble asked why she was the one being disciplined. Because she looks good in it. That's wrong for several different reasons. Not the worst ever, but it really fucked with me. There are literally millions of other cute little Chinese girls just like you that are much better than you and can replace you. Edit, for context. I study animation and am also Chinese. I was asking my teachers for advice on how to get better at drawing faster, as I wasn't very happy with my skill level and was stressed about being left behind by my peers. Most of my teachers were very supportive, but obviously not all of them lol. I did work very hard to spite him, though, and did get a scholarship from it. You just can't break my spirit. I go to school in the US, and he happened to be a white male teacher, but there are mean people from every race and gender. And good people say shitty things sometimes. 2. Thank you for all the support. 3. And for others asking about when I said this was not the worst ever, I meant that other people have probably heard worse from teachers, I guess. Haha. Seeing how anyone gestures to teacher can become a teacher these days. You can be replaced easily too. Edit, I didn't mean this seriously. Apology to the hard-working, dedicated teachers out there. Well, to be fair, that is probably true for all of us. Edit, whoever thought such a simple comment would be my highest rated. But y'all helped me beat my sister in a karma war. So thanks, P. Whoever threw that paper. Your mum's a hoe. As a former teacher, great way to divert the attention back onto yourself. Funny, offensive. I like it. Not the worst thing ever, but definitely the worst advice. In high school, there was a subject I really liked. It was called Informatics 2, but it was mostly basics of graphic design and creative digital stuff in general. I was really inspired for a project we had to do, and really excelled in it. Made a green screen at home, did some advanced video editing. It was through the roof. The professor, Mr. V, who was in charge on that subject, loved it, gave me an A, showed it to other groups of students. Later, I was told he would show that video presentation to future students as an example of a well-done project. The other professor, Miss Milliters, who taught the same subject but not to my group, met me a few days later in the hall and told me, "I saw what you did for Professor V's class. Congratulations. It's very good, but you shouldn't have done it. You've raised the bar for everyone else, so somebody who would have gotten an A could now get a B or less." I actually took it as it is, and it kinda fucked me up for a while. Wish I could go back in time and tell her to fuck off. I'm not in charge of grading, and I've got the right to excel as much as I want. Bitch. Edit. Actually, there was no grading on a curve in high school, so there was really no need for her to have that attitude. She was probably thinking, I raised the bar in a way that Professor V would now expect more from other students. Or something. TBH, I wasn't thinking about that at all in advance. It was maybe the only class I really enjoyed that semester. I just wanted to have fun FFs. As for the part where I called her a bitch, well, she really was a bitch. That's a really messed up thing to say to someone. D. My design and technology teacher really resented that I had very little interest in her subject. She asked me what I wanted to do when I left school. I told her I was going to do something with music. I was in all the school bands, orchestras, choirs, etc., and played piano at grade 8 level. She told me to be successful at that, someone had to be either extremely talented or very hard-working, and that I was neither. It's impossible to rape a male. If he gets a boner, he wanted it from a middle school government teacher. So, by that logic, a woman isn't raped if she gets wet and or has an orgasm? In the state of California, it is impossible to rape a male according to law. You can sexually assault a male. The definition of rape is to forcibly penetrate a vagina without consent. Males do not have a vagina, therefore they cannot legally be raped, even if another male rapes them in the ass. According to California state law, it is not rape. This is charged with PC 243 point for sexual battery and PC 289 forcible penetration with a foreign object. This is also why a male can be charged with statutory rape while a female cannot. A male teacher having sex with a female student is PC 261.5 statutory rape, while a female teacher having sex with a male student is PC 647.6 annoying or molesting a child. If the minor was under 15, both would get PC 288 lewd acts with a child. Late to the party, of course, but what the teacher said wasn't horrible until we learned more a couple weeks later. My 9th grade science teacher was talking about molecular bonds or something, and as an example, called a girl up in front of the class, saying she was one atom and he was another, and they were attracted to each other, and if they were married, they would form a new molecule. The girl he called up looked super uncomfortable, but at the time it seemed harmless. Turns out they were having an affair and he kept telling her that he was going to leave his wife for her. She was 15. When he didn't and tried to break it off with her a couple of weeks later, she went and told on him. After that, he ended up in prison for a couple years. Biology teacher told a white girl who liked tanning beds, if you get any darker they will make you sit at the back of the bus. Alright, I know that's horrible, but it is kinda funny. Shut the fuck up. I am better than God, not the same teacher. Your mother should have swallowed you, not to me, but the kid had that coming. I know you said worst, but I just am always looking for a reason to share this. My sociology professor in college once stopped mid-lecture, looked around the room, said, "Don't ever get roadhead while riding a motorcycle. There, don't say I never taught you anything," and then walked out an hour early. Did he feel like no one was listening? How does the person even do it on the motorcycle in the first place? When I was in 8th grade, one of the boys snapped the bra of one of the girls. That led to a day without normal classes. Boys and girls were separated and the teachers talked to us about sex and growing up and relations, etc. 3 women teachers and 1 man teacher talked to the boys. Near the end of the day, the man said, "You boys have to learn restraint. When you see Riley Shaunson bend over, you can't stare. Believe me, I know how hard it is not to stare. When Riley bends over, I feel a stirring in my pants too. She really gets your blood pumping. I know. She really is a sexy little thing, isn't she?" By this point, he was looking into the air, addressing himself. But we have to stay focused. We cannot waste our lives with fantasies of all the things we can do to that young body. The women teachers were staring at him wide-eyed. He turned red and shut up. I thought it was weird. Then, at 13, now, I realized the man was a closet pedo. Edit, he was never punished. It was never mentioned again that I heard. When I was in 8th grade, we had a new teacher. I don't remember her name, but we called her Drawer Woman because whenever she talked, her jaw did this motion that resembled of a drawer opening and closing. I was always a good student and never made trouble in her class, but there was just something I didn't like about that woman. Somewhere around the middle of 8th grade, I started wearing contact lenses for the first time, and my doctor told me to carry these special drops with me in case my eyes ever got dry. One time during her class, my eyes got really dry, and I asked her if I could go to the bathroom to put the drops in my eyes. She put on this pissed off face, said I was lying because she was a medical professional and she knows that I didn't need them. She then took my eye drops and only gave them back to me after that class. A few weeks after that, I was late for school, so I wasn't very careful when putting on my contacts that morning. On my way to school, I could feel some kind of pain in my left eye. While I was on her class again, I noticed I couldn't see well on my left eye, and then it hit me the lens straight away and got stuck on the side of my eye. I couldn't get the lens out, so I started panicking and crying. I asked her if I can go home, and she started yelling at me. "Fine, get out of my class." That was the first time someone threw me out of their class. Fuck that bitch. If I never see her again, it will be too soon. Congratulations, you're a marriage of Dumbos made in heaven. I had a teacher in elementary school who after every test would pick the lowest scoring girl and lowest scoring boy in the class and force them to hold hands, perform a brief marriage ceremony on them in front of the laughing class without the kissing part OBVS, and have all the other kids sing "Here Comes the Bride." Then she'd have the 2 kids sit together at the side of the classroom for rest of the lesson, and they weren't allowed to stop holding hands until bell rang. The answer is yes. That did happen to me. 3 weeks was about how long the teasing lasted, and 6 years was roughly how long me and the groom avoided speaking to each other after that out of residual humiliation. Edit, this was around the early 00s. I'm not from the US. I didn't tell my parents. I honestly didn't think it was such a honking, huge, giant deal. Kids get punished all the time, right? I'm from a culture where teachers are considered authority figures to be respected, so no adult would have defended us unless I was being physically hurt or something. Probably. I'm surprised so many of you are so outraged on my behalf. You're sweethearts. I'm not permanent scarred by this, just kinda salty. Can't speak for the other kids affected though. But after a day's worth of angry crying, nobody seemed overly traumatized. Most important edit, did it work? Were you a better student from then on? Did you studiously avoid getting the lowest grade in class?